Hello everyone, and welcome to another horror review. Well, tonight I thought I'd go old school. Nothing beats a bit of Hammer horror, but God, what a one I found. I don't remember ever watching this. My word. So tonight we've got the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. We have Kung Fu. We have Van Helsing. We have zombies. We have vampires. Weird looking vampires. And we also have the worst rendition of Dracula ever. Um, can't even compare this to anybody. Um, John Forbes Robertson. I don't know what the hell that was about. Uh, Even Christopher Lee not giving a toss and taste the blood of Dracula, like quite honestly, not wanting to be there and down in a performance, smashes this guy out of the water. And I've seen Twilight series. Ah, dear. Before we start, I don't hate it. Don't think I'm pan on it that I hate it. It's a product of its times. This was made in 1974, so like the wire work of like I grew up massive fan of Hong Kong movies. I need to start getting back in those. Maybe I might be on our channel or something. But yeah, I grew up martial arts movies. I absolutely loved them. But I don't think it was until the mid 80s that the wire work, got to the level that it should be, and the actual fighting stance. This is done in a very Bruce Lee esque kind of style, just not as good. So what we've got is starts off. It's Transylvania. We see a lone. Well, we obviously know it's a monk. Looks like a Shaolin monk, but something's not quite right. And he's traveling through Transylvania. And it's funny because we see him coming across a little post with Christian effigies on it, and the plays the church music for Christian effigy, and then we see him looking across into the skyline, and there you go, Dracula's castle. So we kind of know where this is headed. Do you know what? It's a really fun concept. I was actually really looking forward to this. I thought it was going to be maybe I was expecting Big Trouble in Little China, but Hammer Horror style. I've been thinking that now that I've seen Renfield and it's settled in my brain, we need a Renfield Big Trouble in Little China crossover. I think that would be something out of this world. I don't even Nicolas Cage as Dracula would have worked, but who could find? It's not mine for a sec. Oh God. Lupin, sorry. Jackie Chan. Nicolas Cage as Dracula and Jackie Chan as Lupin. Tell me that's not an amazing movie waiting to happen. Oh, yeah, sorry. Got to nerd out for the next rest of this thing. um, but we see here we've got Ka. Turned out he's a high priest of the Temple of the Seven Golden Vampires. And he goes to Dracula's castle and he kneels down before the crypt. The crypt opens, and this Dracula pretender is done in the worst makeup possible. And who disturbs the sleep of Dracula? Talking like an absolute spiv, and you're like, yeah. That's not a good start. Like, Bela Lugosi was able to do this in black and white with just lights shining in his eyes, the for the special effects, and absolutely nailed it. Christopher Lee, well, what can we say about Christopher Lee? What the hell's this guy think he's doing? Absolutely shocking. But basically, the high priest is there because his vampires that he tends to are asleep, and the world is going about its business and not paying homage to the temple of the vampires. He basically wants Dracula to go and wake them up. And Dracula's like, I do no boon for no one. I come on, blah, 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 you know, all this kind of stuff. And then the cheesiest thing happens. Dracula then gets it in his head. Sorry, pretend Dracula. Discount that Dracula. I don't know, this thing, bargain basement Dracula. Thankfully, we don't see bargain basement Dracula too much in this movie because he then goes, I have been trapped in this crypt, blah, blah, blah. I need your body because I need to take your shape to be able to leave here. And then he does this weird, 1974. The mist just creeps and creeps, and the camera fade one and the other just takes so long. And then he had a limp and stuff, and he's decrepit, and then he just goes skipping out of the temple because that's all Dracula needs to do is look like someone. Like, it's not as if he had possessed him or anything. Like, he looks like somebody that can go in sunlight and just skip away. And then he said he's going to go to China anyway. And hop skippity do go and see these other vampires. Anyway, that's the end of Dracula for most of this movie. Thank goodness. If this guy had have appeared in a lot of scenes, I don't know if I could have watched it. But hop skippity do, we're in China, and Professor Van Helsing, Peter Van Helsing, is giving a lecture in China at the Chongqing University. And he's talking about his experiences in Transylvania, obviously, and blah, 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 blah. Then he wants to talk about the legend of the vampire in China, and everyone's mocking and scorning him. It's a bit of a sad scene, actually. Because he's just treated like absolute scorn. He's renowned, by this point, because he's faced Dracula so many times, he's renowned, and for some reason everybody knows about it. And it's just commented, yeah, that was a vampire. It's not like the secret underground world. It's today modern society has to be all secret and underground. These are set in a time where everyone goes, yeah, it's a vampire. Yeah, he's a vampire killer. He's went and done it. Yeah, we've got a vampire. Van Helsing, can you come and deal with it? Yep, certainly. I don't know, there's something refreshing about that era that just accepts the supernatural and then just goes, right, we've got a vampire, we've got to deal with it. Call the expert. Anyway, he's giving this lecture, not going down too well. He's trying to look for research partners to go into the lore and all that kind of stuff. One guy stays behind or sort of hangs around in the back and then meets him in his home later. And then he tells the story of his village is, or not his village, not his current village, his ancestral village. So it basically comes from, is under the tyranny of the seven golden vampires. Sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister. So we'll get a flashback to what happened and the fact that they're just causing carnage. These have to be the worst looking vampires ever. If you remember, we covered the Abominable Snowman and the Yeti makeup. It's that level of bad. It's as bad as the Yeti makeup in the Abominable Snowman. I don't know why they didn't just have them look human. Like I said, prior to this, can't remember who played Nosferatu, but that was only sort of vampire-esque, deformed vampire. Um, Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee, they didn't need to put prosthetics on. It's almost like a yeah, good point, Chris. It's almost like the seven, this is 1800s. It's almost like that sort of time because he goes around. He's well known in the circles, gets invited to places, and yeah, it's all them very, it's the aristocracy, so it's all fanar, all that kind of stuff. Van Helsing now has a son who I'd say is the weakest character in this. No, sorry, wrong. Dracula is the weakest character in this. But this is someone trying to be. I suppose because he's acting with Peter Cushing and trying to do a similar role, and he's just not cutting it whatsoever. Not a bad, not a bad character. Let's put it like that. There's nothing offensive about him or horrendous. But when it comes to actually facing off against things, he's just Peter Cushing's swinging firebrands and stuff and sticking things and doing as usual. And he's twice this wee guy's age. And he's completely outshined them. Let's just put it like that. Not the wee man's fault. He is acting with Peter Cushing. So you're kind of stuffed there if you think you're going to achieve anything. That's all you can do is live in that man's shadow during the time. You think back in the day, that was just there was a whole generation: Peter Cushing, Vincent Price, Christopher Lee. You never get their likes again. Flip sake, even Vincent Price can come back from the dead and go in a mediocre Star Wars movie and still be intimidating as a CGI image with played back various what do you call it, dialogue. And I remember because it was actually going to cover Sleepy Hollow for a laugh because I haven't seen that in ages. But that was the first to me. Remember Christopher Lee took a break for a while and didn't really get back into acting again. And then he appeared as the judge in Sleepy Hollow. And I remember in the cinema going, "Oh, it's Christopher Lee. Oh, I'm not worthy. He's on the big, just completely in awe of the man." And then obviously he went on to do Lord of the Rings and man never needed to do anything else. Yeah, we'll never get the likes of these actors again. And there's, like I said, Peter Cushing, and he's not even being a main character. He's kind of taking a bit of a backseat in this one because who is it? Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, Cheng. Forgiveness for my dodgy pronunciations, but Cheng's like the main character, and he's the leader of the brothers, who we find out about later. But he's kind of put to the forefront. Vincent Price isn't Peter Cushing isn't just stand at the forefront and I'm the big I am. He's just being Peter Cushing, and sorry, the guy just has gravitas. I don't think anybody in the modern age really does have gravitas now. They don't have that where they can take a maybe Christian Bale or Tom Hardy have that sort of thing about them where they can even do a secondary role and still shine through and not try, not let their ego take over the play of the character, but they just have that much charisma. Really, Gary Oldman, that's it. Yeah, you don't really get that anymore, which is a shame. So we hear the story anyway of how it was a simple farmer managed to defeat one of the seven golden vampires. So actually, when it comes to this, there's six. And what it was, his daughter was taken by them. Now, what gets me is these vampire. They're supposed to be vampire lords. They're supposed to be, apex predators, and they're riding around the place like common bandits. And that's really discerning, and we find out they have minions. So the fact that they are running around like, Attila the Hun and his horde themselves and going hand to hand with people and, don't have that supernatural strength. Like, I think they're trying to make it a sort of kung fu movie, but it shouldn't really. At the end of the day, if you want to think in those terms, they're the end of level baddies, supposedly. So showing them just mucking in and going and doing constant raids in the village isn't. It doesn't show them in the best light, if that makes sense. Bit of a waste, if I'm honest. The seven vampires in this could have been so much more, in my humble opinion. They had the makings there of legends and myth and almost godlike beings, and they just had them grubbing in the dirt, which was a shame. Oh, by the way, booby check. There's loads of boobies in this movie, and some nice ones too. They're all because they take the village girls and have them in this strange altar stuff, and it's just all out. So even though this is like an old school movie, we're still meeting the booby quota. A lot of fun, but yeah, we'll find out then that the farmer goes in, attacks, he frees his daughter, but then she gets killed. He runs away, manages to kill one of the vampires by removing their medallion because they were the source of the power over their chest. It's a big golden bat. Like, talk about hamminess and not being subtle. It's like it's like proper this size. It's a big buff, And what he does, he kills the vampire. He takes off the medallion and he puts it on an altar. A Buddhist altar. So by setting it there, it means that the other vampires can't touch it because they're still following the same principle of it's a holy relic. So obviously vampires can't go into holy ground, all that kind of stuff, which is nice actually. It's funny how, for some reason, until the modern era, like, we couldn't talk about other religions, or we couldn't show respect to other religions, or we couldn't share space with other cultures, until these blue-haired weirdos came along and told us how to live. We weren't doing that in movies at all. I have another couple of surprises for you in this. We have not one, but two female leads. Because obviously that was never done before. Jennifer Lawrence, she was the first of everything. God, I've said it 100 times. Horror has always been ahead of the curve, and always will be. And when this stupid nonsense finishes and they go on to the next stupid nonsense, we'll just carry on doing what we do. I just find it hilarious. All this noise and yapping that goes on in today's age, and like, you just have to look back at older movies and like, yeah, there's your theory or your crybaby stance blown out of the water. So anyway, what it is, Chang is trying to basically recruit Van Helsing. He wants him to go back with him to the village. They're in social circles in China, and obviously the British ambassador, trade ambassador, China's there, and it's like a formal do. And obviously Van Helsing's being invited and all that kind of stuff. So, and then we meet Vanessa Byrne, Mrs. Byrne. So she's a widow, and she's a bit of a debutante, and it's the ambassador's like, she's a woman traveling on her own. He's the only one getting on like that. Meanwhile, everyone else is like, okay, fair enough. Van Helsing's like, yeah, and and Van Helsing's son's like, yeah, and they just start talking to her, and it's all cool. But an interesting thing happens is that one of the local warlords, it's almost like a mafia boss in China, has been invited to this thing, and he sends one of his minions over to request the pleasure of escorting Mrs. Byrne home, but young Van Helsing's already made the offer and been accepted. It's a cultural thing, it's like, it's not even about needing this, just that it's almost like a precursor for a date or something, it's fun. But by doing that, he offends this guy's honor, apparently. So they're heading back, and all of a sudden they're getting attacked in the street by bandits, because that's taking things a wee bit seriously. But I think this is just a case of, right, we need to introduce the rest of the cast. So, of course, the brothers appear. Yeah, but it's not. This is what I'm talking about. If you want to do social commentary, or if you want to buck the norm, right, this is how you do it subtly. It's not everyone, and it's not gonna. It's a brief scene and a couple of sentences, and it's only one person, the ambassador, who's not with the times, if that makes sense. Because this skipped 100 years, it's early 1900s now. And it's just him being prudish, and everyone else just like not even raising an eyebrow. And that was it. Scene's over. It doesn't labour the point for the entire movie, or beat you over the head, or talk about glass ceilings and patriarchy and all that nonsense. It's just done. There you go. What more do you need? But this is how this all ties together, because with it, Van Helsing's talking to Chang while simultaneously this has happened. They're escorting her home, busy walking, busy offering to take a moonlight walk. It's just a polite way to do it. These brigands attack, and then that's when we start to meet some of the other brothers. They appear, show off their martial arts skill, and we've got like martial arts movies and action hadn't been developed at this point, so it's really hokey. But at the same time, you get the spirit of it. Like, this would have been groundbreaking. Like I said, back in the 1970s, this would have been groundbreaking. This was crossing continents and showing probably the first time in Western cinema very early on that we're seeing Far Eastern culture and martial arts. Because don't forget, Bruce Lee hadn't really. When was Enter the Dragon? 1977 or 1978? And the trouble he had, because America. Yeah, that's right. He couldn't get in because he went to America, but Hammer, Horror, and Paramount, or not Paramount, Pinewood Studios, you know what I mean? Yeah, just did it. Not a thing. And they didn't have to use, who do you call him? Out of Kung Fu? David Carradine. You know what I mean? They're actually okay using Chinese people on screen. I love the way the British, we get told we're all this, that, and the other, and it's like, maybe it's not us. Yeah, maybe we were okay with that. We just, yeah, but like conquering things and stuff back in the day, but at the same time, I think a lot of people went willingly, because the tiny island, you can't do that unless you have like willing participants to a point, just saying, just putting that out there. That'll probably start off the chat and that'll be funny. But there you go. But yeah, so we've got all this going on. So we start to meet the other brothers, and said that they've been keeping an eye on Van Helsing since he arrived and sworn to protect him. So that's how the whole thing comes together. And then they're talking about financing the expedition. Food supplies, that, and then this is where Mrs. Burns like, that's okay, I'll finance it. As long as I can come with you. So, job done. So she comes along with him. So there you go. There's a strong, independent woman character in 1974, and she's cool, and it's fitted into the script appropriately for the age. She's not a girl boss, it's not like an insufferable twat. She's actually useful to the group. She has a purpose. She has resources, and is respectful because she actually said in the son she wants to meet the father because Van Helsing obviously is renowned at this point for his accomplishments. So there you go. I can almost bet there wasn't like people walking around the cinema going, oh, how did this ever happen? Oh, what? I'm pretty sure people enjoyed this movie and went, oh, wow, that's inspiring. And moved on. You just have to laugh at today. Honestly, that's why movies are shit now. Because they don't know what they're doing. They don't have a clue about life. Yeah, this goes on. So they get the finance, they get the expedition made together, which is funny because the finance on the expedition is a cart and 4 horses. That's what they needed to finance. I'm guessing this isn't the highest budget movie. I don't think there were like teams of people, and then we'll start to meet the rest. So there's 7 brothers and a sister. As they start off in the expedition, lo and behold, nobody features. What was that character's name? Not Kara. He's not even. He's a big character anyway. But the bandit guy turns up because it's not enough that his men got slapped about and sent in their way. He follows them out into the wilderness to kill them all, sort of thing. And then as all the siblings get together, and then we meet our, like I said, I promise you, not the first, but the second strong female character, Mei Kuei, the sister. She's brilliant. Jumps onto the runners, has her little short swords, does a business for the rest of them. We get some more kung fu fighting. I'm sorry, I just enjoy that stuff. God. Or Boadicea, if you want to go even further back. Queen Boadicea of the Britons. Actually gave the Romans a bloody nose before they tried to go on these lands. I think Cleopatra was she before that? Or around about that time, yeah, because Antony and Cleopatra. So around about the time of the Roman Empire, we had Queen Cleopatra as well. We had also Queen Nefertiti. She was kind of a big deal. Su Wing Chun, the creator of an entire martial art. I'd say she's a pretty strong, independent woman. But sure, what do I know? I'm just a outright misogynistic, istophobe of things, all the yes and all the phobes all together at once because I happen to say I don't like certain movies. Yeah, whatever. It just makes me smile. It does. Just the dumbness that's out there. I know I'm not doing it for clickbait. I'm just in a very reflective mode because I stuck on an old movie just because it came up and just with all this nonsense rattling about, just wasn't even specifically looking for it, but it's there and it's not the first example. So there you go. Yeah, so they all kung fu fight, all that good stuff. Take care of the bandits. job's done. And then that's how we get to meet the rest of the, the cast, because they're sort of traveling along. Then we get to see their individual skills. Then the campfire that night, they get introduced. And each one's a discipline, or there's a pair of twins or masters of the sword that train together. Each one has a name. I can't remember. I'm terrible with names the best of times. But yeah, that's that's good. And then we get to meet some interesting characters. And oh dear, guess what we start having? We start having people of different ethnicities falling in love. We have young Van Helsing, Van Helsing Jr. Although he was initially talking and being charming to Nessa Byrne, the minute May Quay appears, he's completely starstruck, and she sees it straight away. She's like, "Yep, you're in love," and then that goes very beautifully done. Actually, wasn't like they all just ripped their clothes off and jumped the sack, like today. There's actually, they're talking with each other. He's helping her tend the fire. He's gathering the wood and they're talking and all that kind of stuff. And what's funny is he gets his backside handed to him in the fights because he's not a fighter. And he has a pistol and he draws it a couple of times, but it's nothing. So he shows the fact that it's not being the managed man. He's just not a martial artist. That's not his thing. So he's actually fallible in that respect. Peter Cushing's Peter Cushing, you know what I mean? He's fought Dracula how many times? So of course, what's a bunch of bandits going to do to him? He makes it later on in the movie. Actually, makes a brilliant statement about Mike. Where he goes, "You're like a porcelain doll, and then in the instant you turn into a fierce tiger." And she's like, "What, you not like?" He goes, "Not like? I love it." But nothing was progressive until yesterday when Twitter said so. I didn't mean to make this a social commentary. I just find it funny that, like I said, just all the hokiness of today, and just watch a few old movies. Especially horror movies. Go watch a few old horror movies and yeah, have all your narrative turned on its head. The reason I'm going on with this is just a lot of this movie is actually them traveling. The thing that's one of the bad things. It takes a long time to actually get to the village, and there's a lot of scenes, a lot of stuff going on. This has been an hour and a half, and it's right up until like the hour mark that we really get into the what's going on. Strange thing is, it turns out during this time the village is completely decimated, and Discount Dracula, hiding as Cheh, is still acting as a high priest for the 6 other vampires. You tell me, you'd think that he had resurrected them, displayed himself as Dracula, and ruled them. No, they're still doing their thing, the 6 of them, and he's pretending to be the high priest, which makes absolutely no sense. But at least we don't get to see Discount Dracula again, so I suppose it's a good thing. You would think he would come back, even if he was pretending to be Cheh, he would come back as a powerful priest and show more that he's in charge. Weird. Funny enough, the vampires are the most disappointing thing in this. The whole story, and even the going up against the band and stuff in the martial arts thing, that's all great, and the character acting that goes on in this is great. And then we get the vampires, and they're just hokey as hell. Yeah, so that happens. They go to the village. Oh, the retreat to a cave set up all their wards and stuff, but then the vampires appear, 3 of them anyway. Oh, and this kind of shows the technology, because I think they were trying to make them just appear, but they had the bats, and I mean Halloween, pound shop flipping bats in a string, and the most awful squeak, 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 and then everyone's doing the batting thing as if someone on a fishing rod is going squeak, 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 squeak. And then there's stalagmites, and it goes boom, vampire jumps out, boom, vampire jumps out. Does it 3 times. Absolutely hilarious, but I understand it would probably have cost a lot of money to make them materialize. God, I don't even know what the budget was in this. It doesn't matter. But yeah, but they appear, the fight, and Van Helsing as well. During the journey, he's been telling them how he kills vampires and what their weaknesses are and all that kind of stuff. So stake through the heart, decapitation, holy objects, blah blah blah. He actually made another good line is oh yeah, obviously in Europe it would be the sign of the Christian cross, but here it would be the Lord Buddha. So what, we're talking about different religions with respect. And one doesn't have to replace the other? How can it be so? Because nothing was ever set right until 2016. Ah, dear. Hello, internet people. These are special ones. You have a place in my heart. Honestly, these are no end of providing comedy. Yeah, this is me slagging off internet people stream while talking about a movie because I feel like it. Yeah, so that fight scene happens. It's good. That's when, because they talked about fire, they didn't know if fire would do it. So, Van Helsing's obviously, he's like fencing with a firebrand, and he finds out that it does work. Oh, and the summon minions. They have, when Discount Dracula disguised as High Priest Ka, bangs his gong, zombies come out, but apparently they're vampires, but they're zombies because they come out of the ground, or the burial grounds and that, and then they appear and fight. They all appear in this, and they start fighting too. But the minute they kill the 3 vampires, so the minute that happens, it's the most hilarious thing. All the minions stop and just walk off set. I think this is where we could have done with the camera, turn the camera away, and somebody goes, oh, look, and then pan back, and they're all gone. I think that would have been more effective, and I don't think it would have been expensive. But the fact that everyone just stops fighting, and then they just go, and everyone else lets them go. Like, they're obviously going to come back at some point, so why would you let them go? Seeing you have the upper hand, you would put them to the torch, get rid of them. Decapitations, yeah. Decapitation, sunlight, wooden stake through the heart, or silver are the sort of colors. I'm thinking of I'm actually, my brain's turned over. I'm thinking of starting a new segment, but it'll be pre-recorded rather than going live with it. I want to do myths, legends, monsters, all that kind of stuff, and go through the main creatures and where they appear in history, what they're about, how to destroy them, and then look for famous examples in books, look for famous examples in film. Maybe do, a video like that'll take a wee while to put together, but maybe once a month, throw something like that out. So cover vampires in general. Yeah, I'm still toying with the idea, but I'll do one video, I think, and then we'll see how it works out. If people like it, I'll do another one. But there's nothing worse than doing a ton of editing and putting together something, and if it doesn't get watched, you're like, why bother? It's just one of them things. But well, because talking about horror, you have to talk about the creatures and where they all come from, because everything stems from somewhere. There's a whole rich lore out there that I'm worried people are forgetting about because of this generic stuff that comes out, and everything's a virus now, and it's boring. And I think people like the supernatural aspect of monsters and movies is fun. There's a reason these stories have stood the test of time, and even from campfires to modern age, there's a reason people still go back to them, because they're good stories, and they're what they're based on previously. Just absolute gems. So maybe we're talking about. Yeah, so that's the first attack. That's cool. Defend it off. Then they get to the village. They realize the village is deserted. And then they start setting up for the final attack. And it goes as expected. This time, obviously, like Seven Samurai, quite a few people get dispatched. We lose lady Mrs. Burren. She gets bitten by a vampire, and before she turns, it's like Van Helsing tells Cheng, no, get rid. You have to end her. You have to end her. That's kind of stuff. It's and then he realizes she bit him, and then he throws himself in the same stake. Very that's kind of far eastern oriental storytelling, that kind of story. So it's cool to bring that in to your traditional, because you wouldn't really get that with the traditional vampire story. So they're bringing that kind of aspect of storytelling, and they meld together so well, even like the limitations of the cinema back in the day. Just getting that moment. And then this goes, they deal with the rest of the vampires. To go to the temple, because of course, like Castle Dracula, in Transylvania, you have this huge temple, ominous against the backdrop of the seven golden vampires. And this is the weirdest scene ever. Like the last 2 minutes, Van Helsing senses Dracula. He goes, "Show yourself," and then Ka transforms back into Dracula with like the mist and hokiness. Fight lasts about 20 seconds. Van Helsing deals with him, and then cut the credits. End of movie. There you go. Which is typical for Hammer Horror, to be honest. They don't do the epilogues and stuff and that kind of stuff. They just finish the story and then cut the credits. All in all, it's a decent watch, and for a movie back in the day, you can't think about the hokiness of the vampires. They're not on it too often, so you're not going to get too hyper focused on them. But the character stories, is what makes up for it. The character stories all the way leading up to this and the final confrontation. I think this needed to be Christopher Lee again, to be honest. Because I think this is maybe the last Peter Cushing role in that this sort of Hammer Horror style, as Van Helsing. I could be wrong. But definitely, I think we just needed one more matchup between Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. Who wouldn't have wanted that? And I think if it had been someone like Christopher Lee, the dynamics, the whole thing would have been different. But probably didn't have the budget. To be honest, they probably spent all their budget in Peter Cushing. To be honest, they had nothing left for anything else. But yeah. It's a decent watch. You want a wee bit of nostalgia, go back in time, crack on. It's a good movie. You can, like I said, you can forgive a lot of the hokiness because the limitation of the times. This is one I think would benefit from a remake. And I know I'm talking blasphemous words, and you know my thoughts on remakes and rehashes and reboots. But this is a movie where the limitations of the time held it back. The only danger is that if it goes into today, it would be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Vampire. You know, it would be spinning kicks and wire work, and it might be a bit over the top. That might have worked. Who would get to play Dracula in this one? Because it would have to be who's playing an actual serious Dracula. In fact, Steve and we're going to look at this Dracula in film. We're putting together an episode. It's actually, we thought it was going to be like a handful of movies, and it's flipping the number of times Dracula's actually appeared on the big screen is ridiculous. There's over 100 movies, so we'll have to actually sit and plan this one out before we do it. I can't just do it off the cuff, or else just sound like morons. So we're actually going to look at Dracula through the ages on film, and I don't know who today, will play the Christopher Lee-esque or the Bela Lugosi-esque Dracula. Flipping Nick Cage did a brilliant job in the flashback scenes. I'll give him that, the Bela Lugosi style. God, flipping guy's a lunatic. Flipping, he's just something else. Yeah, but Renfield, Big Trouble in Little China, I called it. I want at least to mention if that movie happens. Just say you saw it here. Share the podcast around. Don't even pay me anything. Just share the podcast around and say, this is the guy I thought of this, and this is why we're doing it. There we go. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the review. You need to set yourself down, big lad. Stop beating yourself up. Flip sake, there's plenty of people out there in the world that do it for you. Honestly, there's people more than happy to jump up and stick a boot in. So, enjoy yourself. That's what I do. I give up, not look in the mirror, wanting to be more, all that kind of stuff. It's you are who you are. Flipping do it, man. Get out there and make a wave. Because at least you're not suddenly sniveling in the background. You step up every time. You're always there. You support others. That's perfect. Not being an egoist. But anyway, back to the point. Hope you enjoyed the review. Please check out the movie. If you do, let us know in the descriptions. Interesting to hear your thoughts on this. Sorry to the weirdos on the internet, I'm probably upset with this one, but old movies did it better than news. So yeah, up yours. Right, there you go. Go up to the channel, do the typey click things. And until next time, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.